At the very moment Mike Johnson needed Donald Trump the most, Trump simply walked away. His so-called loyal ally is now on the brink of losing his position, and Trump appears completely indifferent. What started as internal tension between the White House and the MAGA wing of the House has now turned into an open civil war that even seasoned observers didn't fully anticipate. Many Republicans are privately furious, not just at Trump's behavior, but at what they see as his laziness and refusal to lift a finger to save Johnson's career. There's a certain bitter irony in all of this. The very politicians who tied their entire futures to Donald Trump, defended him at every turn, and reshaped their party around him are now being left to fend for themselves. Trump may occasionally give the appearance of helping Johnson, but his actions tell a different story. His recent moves in Georgia seem driven less by political strategy and more by personal grievance, ego, and insecurity, exactly what critics have been warning about, before we dive deeper into how completely he has abandoned Mike Johnson.
The administration is fast corrupting the Justice Department and even our intelligence agencies. And yes, they are laying the groundwork for mischief in the upcoming elections. The president said we'd never need to vote again. Then he said we shouldn't have elections. Now he says he wants to take over the elections. And like a scene out of some banana republic, Tulsi Gabbard, the country's spy chief, comes to Fulton County, Georgia, to oversee the seizure of ballots. Your ballots. Tulsi said the president asked her to go, which means the president is personally managing federal raids on election sites in battleground states, all in service of his obsession with overturning the 2020 election and laying the groundwork for whatever they're plotting this year. But they made a big mistake. They came to Fulton County, Georgia. They came to the political and spiritual heart of the civil rights movement. They came to the doorstep of John Lewis's congressional district. And as a result, we are going to mobilize the biggest and most unstoppable turnout in state history.
Even as Donald Trump seems willing to push every boundary imaginable to influence the midterms, there is one thing he absolutely refuses to do: become more politically palatable. That is simply not in his nature. Trump is driven almost entirely by what serves his ego, and that usually means self-enrichment, grievance, and spectacle. He clearly enjoys provoking outrage, attacking ordinary Americans, and building a loyal street-level following, even if it costs him broader public support. He doesn't like the backlash from the media, but that hasn't stopped him from leaning into division, conspiracy, and inflammatory rhetoric. He regularly spreads misleading claims about the economy, claims that may rally his base but alienate swing voters, and seems incapable of doing anything that might actually make him more popular with the general public. That is exactly why many Republicans are now in a full-blown panic. One of them even went on Fox News to sound the alarm. Veteran GOP strategist Karl Rove warned that Republicans could very realistically lose the Senate in November unless they sharpen their economic message. He pointed to a string of razor-thin races that should worry the party. In Maine, for example, Susan Collins faces a tough re-election battle in a state where Trump was decisively defeated. As Rove noted, a significant share of voters split their tickets in the past, backing a Democrat for president and a Republican for Senate, which makes this race especially unpredictable. In North Carolina, with Senator Thom Tillis retiring, Democratic former Governor Roy Cooper is currently leading Republican candidate Michael Whatley in most polls. Even traditionally safer states like Georgia and Alaska look competitive. Put simply, Republicans know they are in serious trouble, largely because Trump is more unpopular and more politically isolated than ever before inside his own party. Under normal circumstances, you would expect a party leader in this position to campaign aggressively, raise money, and help endangered allies. Instead, Trump appears disengaged. He has shown little interest in saving House Speaker Mike Johnson, who is teetering politically. Trump's attitude often comes across as, "That's your problem, not mine." According to reports from the Washington Post, many Republicans inside and outside the White House are privately furious with him. They control only an ultra-thin House majority. Trump's approval ratings are sinking, and Democrats show signs of renewed momentum. Yet Trump has still refused to greenlight a clear spending plan from his $300 million war chest. Even more damaging, he has withheld key endorsements in battleground states, forcing wealthy donors to pour millions into messy and expensive primaries in places like Texas and Georgia. To many in his own party, it looks like Trump is hoarding cash while they bleed resources. White House sources describe him as increasingly detached. Some days, aides say, he simply doesn't seem to care whether Republicans keep the House. Having survived 2 impeachments, losing a majority apparently doesn't faze him, but it deeply unsettles everyone around him. His reluctance to back Senator John Cornyn in Texas has dragged the GOP into a brutal primary against Ken Paxton, further draining party funds. Across the board, Trump's indifference is costing Republican donors tens of millions of dollars. Meanwhile, Trump openly shrugs off the prospect of losing the House or seeing Mike Johnson topple. To him, governance is secondary to loyalty, ego, and personal gain. More broadly, the culture around Trump's inner circle reflects this same mindset. Many of his allies did not enter public office to serve the public. They came for power, money, influence, and visibility. Whether it's lucrative contracts for friends or national fame, their priorities rarely align with governing effectively. What Trump can still rely on is a powerful right-wing media ecosystem that relentlessly defends him. Personalities like Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly, along with platforms like X, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. That is precisely why progressive media voices argue that building a strong counter-media infrastructure is essential. Channels like Don Lemon's, Brian Tyler Cohen's, and new projects like Shift Media are framed as necessary tools to balance the narrative and hold Trump accountable. The argument is clear. If the right invests heavily in media dominance, the left must invest just as heavily in independent journalism and digital storytelling. In the end, the core message is this: Trump has effectively thrown Mike Johnson and much of the Republican House under the bus. He simply doesn't care, and many in his own party are now paying the price.
Staggering. You know, the economy used to be the wind beneath Donald Trump's presidency wings, and now it's his Titanic. Because what are we talking about here? Well, let's just take a look here. Trump's economic net approval 1 year in term 1, hey, yeah, plus side of ledger, plus 8 points. It was his best issue, arguably. But now it's one of his worst. Look at that. Way down in the basement, 18 points below water. What is that, John? Quickly, some math. What is that, a 26-point switcheroo in the wrong direction? This is the type of number that Democratic midterm dreams are made of and Republican nightmares are also made of.
So by and large, are voters saying it's Trump's fault?
Yeah, this is the key answer, right? Which is why? What is driving these numbers? And it is because the folks believe, the voters believe, it's the Trump administration's fault. Take a look here. Okay, the Trump admin has made the economy worse or better. You go back to January of 2018, term number 1, the plurality winner there was better at 40%, just 22% said worse. Look at this side of the screen, the exact opposite story. What a switcheroo, my goodness gracious, 50 52%. 52% of Americans say that Trump admin their policies have made the economy worse. And look at that, just 28% say better. Even among the GOP, just 57% say they make it better. When you're only getting 57% of the Republican base to agree with the positive position for Donald Trump, you know you are in some massive trouble, which the Trump administration and Trump in particular are on the economy
And just
right
to
now.
remind people, everyone says the economy is the number one issue, and they say the president's not helping.
Correct. This more than anything else, it is what is driving Donald Trump's approval rating overall down. It is the economy. It's the number one issue, and the American people believe that Donald Trump is failing on the key number one issue.